Let's start with the session. Before starting, anyone wants anything to share? Okay, let's start. Okay, so today we will be talking about Lightning Web Components. Okay, today we will work on the introduction. What do we have in the Lightning Web Components? Then we will be setting our org. Okay, org setup. That's the second topic, and the third topic will be creating basic components using HTML resource, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so let's start. First of all, let's talk about the introduction here. So in Lightning, we know that we already have worked on Lightning Aura components, okay, which came in 2014. So now in 2019, we got a new model or new programming model to do the programming to create the Lightning components, which is Lightning Web Components. Okay, so basically it is a new programming model, just the way we have Aura components for building the Lightning components. Now the question arises, why we need Lightning Web Components when we already had Aura? Or if let's just modify the question, when we know that Lightning Web Component was very important, or when now it is giving us so many advantages. So when we already knew that it is going to be important, why it didn't came in 2000 itself and we got the Aura component at that time? Okay, so for this thing we have to first study the Aura components. Okay, so let's first talk about the Lightning component framework for this thing. So in Lightning component framework, we know that we have two ends, okay, for Aura components, okay, specifically when we are working with Aura component, or we should specify, we just can talk about Lightning component framework. So here we have two ends. One is the client end, okay, and the another is the controller end, that's the back front end and the back end. Okay, in controller end we have two things. Okay, we work with the view part, that's the front end, okay, which is basically managed by the markup language. In Aura components we work with Salesforce Lightning Design System, we can use HTML, so any web enabled language can be used for taking care of front end in Lightning Web Components. And the back end, the controller of the same, is managed by JavaScript, okay, which is basically a client side programming language only, but it also supports server side programming. Okay, on the controller end, where we have two things. First is controller Apex and the database. Okay, so these things are linked together with a connecting thing, Salesforce. Okay, so we have this within the Salesforce, we are connecting this front end to the back end. Okay, in front end we have a language that helps us to take care of the UI, and JavaScript is basically taking care of the back end functionality. But when it comes to accessing the database, when it comes to accessing of the database, at that point of time we need to eventually work with the Apex as the controlling. Okay, we have to use client side programming, because we can say the only drawback in Lightning is that we cannot work uh, with the bulk amount of data with the help of client side programming. For that, eventually we need to use server side programming. And one more thing, I'm for now considering that you guys have idea about Lightning Aura components. Okay, So if you don't have, please tell me like right away in chat box, or you can just unmute the mic and tell me that. Okay. Now, the second thing we will be talking about is within this, like talking about while talking about Aura components, that in 2014, when we got Aura component, what was the web stack at that point of time? Okay. While working with that type of web stack, we were working with more of the frameworks and less web standards. In 2014, we were not having very good web standards. Okay. In web standards, we had only ECMAScript 5. Okay. We had events, we had standard elements, and rendering. Okay. These were the only web standards available at that point of time. Okay. Coming to the framework part, basically the web stack includes both your framework and web standards, right? So at that time, we were working with more of the framework. Okay, framework was including like data services, UI components, component model, templates, rendering option, module, and language extension. Okay, so these were the frameworks which we used to work on while working with the 2014 web stack. So the only problem at that time was we were not having web standards, we were not having good web standards. So we can say that in 2014, when Aura components were introduced, we were not having much of the web standards. Okay, we had limited foundation for the full stack development that developer need to build large scale, that basically developers need to build the large scale web application. Okay, because at that time we were having this rendering, but this rendering uh, wasn't optimized enough for continuous UI transformation. Okay, on the same time, when we had the standard elements, they were not allowing us to create any custom elements. Okay, they were just specifically for standard events. Okay, ECMAScript is basically JavaScript at a very base level. So in this case, whatever the web standards we were using in 2014, they were old. Okay, they were not including the advanced functionalities like modules, classes, promises, decorators, which were introduced in these 5 years after 2014 until this 2019. Between this time only, there were many advanced functionalities, many advanced web standards were introduced, which were not there when Aura components were there. Okay, so it means we can say that web standards were improved in last 5 years. In last 5 years, we have seen a very advanced level of innovation in the standardization, and they are coming from W3C and the ECMAScript technical committees. Like for an example, let's talk about the advancements. So web standard introduced in last 5 years were ECMAScript 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so it means we have a very advanced level of ECMAScript introduced. Okay, then other than that, we have web components available now. Then standard DOMs are shadow DOMs are introduced. Okay, so all in all, after in these 5 years of advancements, after 5 years of advancements, now in 2019, this web stack is improved to having most of the web standards. Okay, and less of the frameworks. Okay, and other problem with the frameworks is this, that framework, for every different framework we need a new learning, right? Learning totally changes. So we have a problem with that as well. Maybe this jQuery, Node.js, and all of these things are from JavaScript only, right? But still, they were all different. They were never used together. We may use them in your Visual Force components, but here in the Aura components, we never used them. Okay, so it means if we are working with more of the framework, whenever a framework change, the total learning model changes. But when it comes to web standard, it's just the advancements which are added. Okay, only the advanced things are added. All the basic concept, everything remains the same. Okay, now after 5 years, when all the new advancements have added, now we have more of the web components, templates. Okay, we are using ECMAScript, and this has improved our web stack with less framework and more web standards. For this thing, let me show you one thing. Okay, give me a second. Okay, here we go. Now, this is what is our improved web stack, which is having less of the frameworks, okay, and more of the web standards. Now, web components, templates, you can see advance of the JavaScript. JavaScript 7 is being used. We are using more of the events, standard elements, rendering, and events. They are same from our last website. Then modules are added, shadow DOM is added, custom elements are added. While we were unable to create custom elements from the standard elements, we have introduced the custom elements itself, okay, templates and web components. Okay, so this is the improved web stack, and this is the reason why we have lightning web component in 2019 that came up in 2019 to improve the way we do the programming using the advanced technologies from your JavaScript, advanced JavaScript, write it in with more of the web standards and less of the framework. Okay, so this is why we got our Lightning web components in the market. Okay, so any question till this point, guys?
No, Komal.
Okay.
Komal,
Mm-hmm.
are you going to explain each and everything like what is ECMA script, module, DOM, shadow DOM, some
Yeah,
everything?
we can read about them later on. Like as I told you guys that it's being a crash course, so we will be having a 3 days course. I forgot to tell you about this in introduction. So we are going to go for 3 days session. Okay, maybe 1 hour, 2 hour, depends on how we work on it. Okay, so I'll try to cover as much as we can. Okay. Yeah. Now let's start with the setup here. Okay. The second part that we are having is for setup. So first of all, what you have to do, you have to install. You have to first of all, install Salesforce CLI. Okay, you have to download it and install it. Command line interface. Okay, that's from Salesforce. Hmm. Okay, so you can download it for any operating system for yours. Mine is already downloaded. Okay, so to check it, what we can do, we can either check the, like, you can go to any command prompt. If you are uh, working with Windows, you can use the normal command prompt. Okay, so here to check the whether it is installed or whether there is any update for your CLI, Salesforce CLI, you can write sfdx update. Okay, or if you want to check the version, you can do that by this. So it's up to you how you want to go for. Okay, so this is the version available for it. Other than this, if there is any update you want to go for, you can just click it like this. It will give you the update. So it will check, okay, updating CLI. Yes, it says that already installed the latest version, that is 7.530. Okay, so this is how we can check whether the Salesforce CLI is installed or not. Okay, after this thing, first of all, the second thing that you need to install is the VS Code, Visual Studio Code. Okay, so I have that as well already installed. Okay, so I will be opening that directly. Fine. Now the next step, guys, I will share the steps by writing somewhere to you. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. Then the next thing that we are having is we have to go for our org. Okay, so whichever org you want to use, first of all, go there in your org that you want to use for your default org as your scratch org. Okay, and please remember you have to always enable my domain. Okay, I'm considering you have worked on Lightning Aura components. That's why I am not showing you how to enable my domain. But the next thing that you need to do is you have to search for dev hub. Okay, here you have to enable the dev hub. Okay, so basically it is enabled whenever we want to work with our scratch orgs. Okay, like in this org I want to make it a scratch org. It is like a disposable org that I want to create, maybe for testing, for development. Okay, I want to use this org for development. In that case, you have to enable it. Once it is enabled, you cannot disable it after that. Okay, so now once you are done with this thing, I will be going to my VS Code here. The next thing is go to the extensions. See, here you, in this first section, you will get all your files. Okay, here you can search your stuff. Then your this is basically the source control if you want to take care of source control or anything. This is the part where you have extensions. Okay, so first of all, in your VS Code, you have to install Salesforce extension pack. Okay, So you have to install it. I have it as well already installed. Okay, so here you will get option for installing it, and then you can install it. Now most of your commands from your sfdx commands will be available to you over here only. Okay, now let's start with our programming. Okay, first of all, open your command from or your terminal from here. Okay, your terminal. And here the first thing that I will do is I will create a project. Okay, within that project only I will be taking care of all the data. I'll be keeping all my web components and all of these things. Okay, so for that we have a command Salesforce dx. Okay, force colon project. Now about this commands, these are like our normal CLI commands from Salesforce. Okay, about these commands I will be explaining you soon, like what are they, what does this force means here, what does this project means here. Okay, so create, okay, dash n, and the name of the project, any project you want to create, say crash course, and press enter. Okay, so now this is your project created. Okay, to open it you can just check the directory. Okay, it is available in users and this directory. Okay, to open this project you can come or over here explorer and open the folder. Okay, now for this thing I have to go to oh sorry, users. So here we go with the users, and in this folder I have this crash course. Okay, so once you find this folder of yours, just open the folder, and here you go with the all the files with for your project. Okay, the most important file over here is the config file, which is project scratch definition JSON. Okay, so basically here we have to add one detail. Okay, it will be adding here I have to add one statement that will say add sample data. So if there is any problem, it will be visible over here. So expected comma, it means we are expected one comma over here. Okay. So coming to this thing, let's say whenever we are going to create our scratch org or any default org, while creation of that org, it should has the sample data for our like other like whatever we are going to perform next. Okay, if we create it with a false value, our org or our default org will not be created with the sample data. So to get that sample data in our org, we have to make this true. Okay, now in the next thing what we have to do is, now I am in my project, and in this project I have to first of all create my default org. Then I will be making that default org as a scratch org that within which I will be working. Okay, so let's start with that commands. sf, so to create a default org you have to write force colon authorized, auth for authorized web login, then dash a, that is for alias. Okay, let's say LWC 101. Okay, dash d, so this dash d will make it a default org. When we click enter, okay, it will take you to the page. Just log in with whatever org you want to make default org. Okay, now when I will logging it in, then here on next page you will be getting an option to say okay or no. Okay, that option for me is already checked. They will be asking you whether you want to make this org as a default org or not. Okay, you have to check it. Okay. Okay, so once you have made this org as a default org, the next statement will be to create your org as the scratch org. So now you can say successfully authorized this org, okay, with this org ID. Okay, now we can go for the next thing. sfdx colon, sorry, force colon org and some name, let's say I'll
Komal,
Mhm.
instead of writing all this thing, we have an option, right, where we can
Command,
search for
yes, command palette.
yeah, yeah.
I will show you later.
Okay.
First of all, we should know the about queries as well. Okay, you get the
Okay.
command palette by clicking Control plus Shift plus P, but I will show you that thing later. Now, okay, so it will be creating one alias with a name. Okay, then the default org will be set to the scratch org for some specific time. Let's say 1 day for okay, 2 day, 2 days, okay, or maybe 25 or 30. So minimum value is 1 or maximum value is 30. So that is specifying for how much time you are creating this org as the default your scratch org. So maybe let's say 25 or any value you want to go for. It doesn't make any problem. Okay. Then after that dash F, that's basically for specifying the locations. Okay. After that config project scratch. Now this will create the scratch. Okay, so scratch definition dot JSON and dash save. All right, so it says successfully created the scratch org. Okay, now to open this scratch org, we have a simple command sfdx force colon org colon open. Okay, that will open our scratch org. Okay, now here uh, this basically changes for everyone. Okay, this domain name will be changing for everyone. So for you it will be something else. For even if I open my org again, this part, this domain part will again change. Okay, so here my scratch org is here. All right, now let me show you about the command palette. For your Mac, you have to go for Control plus Shift plus P. For Windows, go for Control plus Shift plus P. Okay. So here, SFDX. So these are all the options which you can just choose directly. Open the default org, push source code to default org. Okay. So if I click this open, so it will be just running your command and it will open your scratch org again. Here we go. Okay. So this is how it works. Now let's start with a bit of programming. Okay, so for programming, let's start with creating our Lightning Web Component. To create a Lightning Web Component, let's say I'm using my command palette only. Just search for Lightning Web Component. Go for the first option here. Give a name. Let's say I'm going to create one hello component just like always. So hello world or any name you want to give. I will be giving that. Try to use camel case. Okay, we are supposed to use camel case for the names. Okay, and it is going to ask for your directory. So I will be saving it in my Lightning Web Component folder only. Okay, so here we go. with new command is running for sftx. Yeah, okay. So here you can see, let me just close every other part. You can see here in Lightning Web Component folder, we have a hello world web component, okay, within which we have few files. So let's first talk about files. So we have here HTML file, and then we have the JavaScript file, okay. Then we have this meta file, okay. So these are three files which will be opened directly, okay. They will be open normally. You don't have to create them. Coming to other files like CSS file or any SVG file, for that you have to create it over here, like by clicking new file, giving the same name .css, okay. Similarly, you can create SVG file as well over here, okay. So it's up to you. By default, three files will be coming up. Rest of the files you have to open up by yourself, okay. So let's start with the programming. Here, coming to your front end and whatever, like while working with your Aura components, what we had the component resource taking care of front end, controller resource taking care of the back end. Here we have bit of the functionality in the same way. Here we are writing the front end in these two tags, template tag, which are basically for the scope of HTML page, okay. So we write our front end in HTML only, okay. Coming to this JavaScript file here, this is for importing the Lightning element. Anything that you want to import from Lightning Web Component, that will be written within these braces, okay. Then exporting means if you want to export the code to any external place, like for an example, if even we push our code into the Salesforce scratch, or even for that we have to write our code within these braces, okay. It is basically like a class, okay, with the same name as your component, but it here the H is capital, okay. Your the other letter is capital, and it is extended to the Lightning app. So it means the backend functionality for your JavaScript that you are going to push to your external resource, maybe the Java, maybe the Scratch, or okay, you put that code within this, and your front end code over here, okay. So let's first start with the basic thing. Everyone starts with working with creating one hello component. Let's try with that only. Here Lightning card I'm going to use, okay, giving a title, my first web component, and within it here I'm going to write in the div tag. Now here it's up to you whatever you want to use, whether you want to work with only HTML, that you can also do. If you have a better command of HTML5 or the advanced functionalities within HTML, it's very good to use that as well. There are no restrictions over here, okay. Coming to the div tag, here I want to write just hello, welcome to my page, okay. So I will be first saving it. Let me just save this Word file as well. Now here I have to add some of the things to my meta file, okay. Here we need to talk about this. So first of all, what we have to do is we have to change this, like see, it's giving me the API version over here. The other thing is exposed, so I have to change this exposed to true value, okay. Secondly, I want to use this web component in my maybe home page or maybe the app page, okay, of the Lightning, okay. So in that case we have a tag called as target that we have to always use, okay. So starting with it and ending with it, and then within it I'm going to write it like target Lightning. So maybe record page. For record page you can write like this. So I will just copy this thing. Now this is a double underscore, okay, underscore underscore. So I will be pasting it 3 times. Now over here, one for record page, one for app page. So wherever you have you want to use this component, you can just put that as the target. Okay, you want to use it as app page, you want to use it as record page. So it is like the configuration that we check while creating your component, right? Over there we have more options. Here it depends, okay, where exactly we want to use it. Okay, for home page we have this option, okay, and then we can save it. So here we have assigned the targets. JS file is done, HTML file is done. Okay, so to push it, I have two options. Either I use the command palette or I use my uh, terminal. Okay, so here in the terminal I can use the statement sfdx space force colon source colon push. So it will push my code into my scratch org. Okay, otherwise coming to your command palette, here you have this third command. I have recently used it, push source code source to the default scratch org. Okay, so up to you. Okay, so it says there is an error, so let's see what the error is. Okay, lightning component bundle hello world cannot be empty. Oh, my css file, that's empty. So here, why don't we remove it for now? Okay, and save all the things again, because we will be working on CSS maybe after this code and not now. Okay, so this time it's successfully pushed. Okay, now to or open the org we have the same command. Okay, open default org, but you know guys, rather than doing that we can also come here directly and just refresh our page again and again. Okay, so here what I want to do is I will just specifically go into any of my application, let's say marketing application or anywhere, because I just want to add it in the home page for now so that we can see our output directly. So I will just add it my page. And here we have this component hello world, which is created in our lightning web component. Okay, so it is already pushed over here. Okay, these are the places that I can remove this assistant from here and drag and drop it here. Okay, after this I just need to save it. So once it is saved, we can just go back to our page and see what do we get in the output. So here we go with our very first web component. Okay, and in this component we have our heading of the lightning card and this in the div tab. Okay, so now at this point of time we can use CSS, right? We can apply some of the stylings, and now I can create my uh, new file. So here we go with the new file. Remember to use the same name, hello world.css. And in the CSS file, what we have to do, I will go back to HTML, and here I will provide a class to my div tag, okay, so that I can give reference of this class name and apply my styling to the data within my class, okay. So let's say my class, that will be just fine name. And in the CSS file, what you have to do, you have to put dot my class curly braces, and within it you can write any CSS tag that you want, okay. So let's say color. There are many options as well that you want to use directly, okay. Maybe this one, okay. So once it's done, you can save it. So this time to push the code, I'm using push source to default, okay. It will run the command from here and give you the output still here, okay. The problem, if there is any, it will come here and the term. Now guys, tell me if you have any question till this point with our very first component. Yeah, so it says
I
it's
don't have.
okay. So till this point it have done. Now I'll go to my scratch org, and remember to refresh your page at least, like sometimes it doesn't gives you output if you're not opening it from here. Remember, if you're not opening it from here, you have to maybe refresh your page twice, okay. So yeah, it's not giving me output, or is it? Mm-hmm. Is the color changed? Yes, it's changed. So it's not black anymore. It's now a different darkish color, grayish color. Okay, so that we can use. We can put the border as well. No, not this, but border. Let's say 1 pixel, solid, black. Black would do just fine. Save it and push source to default. Okay. Okay, it's pushed. We'll go to our component and check the CSS. So here we go. Our border is here, our component is here. So basically, we create a first component just to understand the structure, how exactly we do programming and how well we work on the things. Okay. So let's create a good component that will be taking some inputs from us. On that, let's apply some Salesforce Lightning design system only. We can apply that as well over here, create some button and all the stuff. And also we will be taking reference from our component library, so that you should be able to use all the things directly. Like if I show you a tag directly, okay, one tag, okay, I'm just typing one tag, you will get knowledge about that single tag only. But if I show you how to use the tags, then it's on you. Like you are searching how well you can use the document for your requirements, according to your requirements. So it's like teaching you how to search the things according to your requirements. And here I'm specifically using this component only. Okay, I want to create a new one. So let's start with the HTML file, and I can remove this from. I will create lightning card only. Lightning card is the primary requirement always. So let's say I give a title to this as registration form. Okay. Now within this, I want some inputs. Okay. So for getting the input, simply go to your page, search for lightning inputs. Okay. Go to the first tag. And here these are the output for aura components. Okay, we already know these are the tags for aura component. To use lightning web component, what you have to do, you have to click this lightning web component button. Okay, just click this button. So here we go with the with all the kind of inputs. We have date input, date time, okay, normal text input. So let's start with text input and we'll try to use as many as we can. So here it's also same thing. It's gonna show you some preview, and down over here according to the preview which you like, you can use the tag. Okay, so we are of course going to use the most basic tag. That's this one. Copy this, paste it over here. Okay, you can just change the label, enter first name, let's say, and now I can just paste it at least 2 times for first name and last name. Here you can also give one more attribute, name, for the unique value. If in case you want to use the data stored over here, or if you want to fetch something, okay, for that we can give a unique name as well, but that's not required for now. Okay, then after that I want one email input. For email input I can just straight away use this one. So here you have to just change the label, and then let's add one for phone. So that will be the telephone option. So in your telephone option, we have the first, that's read only. Second is having a placeholder. So why not use second option? Third is having a pattern, okay, validation kind of pattern that you can use. So here the label is phone, type is telephone, name is the unique name, placeholder. Okay. Then after this, you can create a button. So for button as well, we can search it's the same way, lightning button. Oh, sorry. We need to go for lightning web component. That was for aura. Alright, so just copy anyone and we will remove everything extra from here. Now title we can remove. I don't think it's going to make any problem. The label will be, let's say, submit. Variant base basically removes your border. It creates a different type of button. Okay, I don't want that as well. So I will just save my file. Okay, once my file is saved, I will be pushing my code to scratch.org. Already pushed, so let's go. Okay, here we go with the page that can take input from us. Okay, now maybe we can apply some styling over it, and for that styling we will be using let's say SLD, Salesforce Lightning Design System. So very first thing is I want to decrease the size of these inputs according to my input base. I may have given a very small part to this component. You can give big area depending on the component. So, but still, according to even this space, I want these inputs to be small. So while working with your SLDS, the tag that is used for reducing the size of input is the SLDS size. Okay, Salesforce Lightning Design System colon size. So basically here when it is about sizing, we divide the inputs, okay, in any number, in 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, and then we use some part of it like fraction, okay, like 2 of 4 will be half of this part, okay. Let's say 3 of 8 will be dividing it into 8 section and 3/3 of that. So what I want is I want 2 of 3. I will divide it into 3 sections, and I want around this area, okay. So for that, the tag that is used is div class SLDS dash size, and basically first of all we write SLDS, then dash, then property, then while writing the value either we'll put double dash or we put underscore, it depends on you. So I want 2 of 3, and I will be putting that at least here, okay, and save. So when it will be saved, I will just push it again. So pushing it is like preview of Lightning or accounts. Okay. So we'll wait for yeah, it's done. Now let's just refresh the page and check whether the size is improved or not. Okay, it's not. Need to refresh again. Otherwise, check the error. Okay, if there is any error, we have to check that. Okay, now it's working fine. Okay, now let's say I want some margin left as well. Okay, because it's just touched with the border, okay, and it's not looking very good. I will give it some margin. Now this time I will be using CSS. So I will remove this part because I don't have any class left now. What I'll be using this time is, even in Aura components we do the same. We copy the name of this class and we can use this thing for style. Because in Aura components, we say that CSS is the add-on to SLDS always. Okay, we don't use it as extra. We don't say it in such a way that okay, CSS is for styling and maybe SLDS is for those stylings which CSS cannot do, or vice versa. We don't do this, or we don't say it like this. Basically, CSS is always an add-on to your SLDS. Okay, so now I want to add some styling here. First of all, I want margin left. I'll go for margin left, and I will try for 100 pixels for now. So save it and then push the code again. Okay, it's done. Okay, now it's pushed. Okay, this is too much. We could have given 75 pixels or 50 pixels. That would be just fine, right? But still, our component is now looking better. And we can here give a break tag at least to give a space between phone and submit. So that as well we'll be doing. We just don't want any page to look not good. Mhm. Okay, now we got a space. Okay, so this is just a front end thing. Now let's talk about the other property that we used to do in Aura components. Till this point, if you guys have any question, let me just open the code. If you have any questions, you can go for it. I guess no question. Let's just move forward. So the next thing is in Aura components, we used to work with attributes, right? Attributes were like variables over there. But here the system is a bit different. Here we don't do that in the HTML file because of course we don't create any variable in HTML, right? So eventually we need to use JavaScript for the same thing. Okay. So let's say what I want to do over here, rather than using the value here, I want a dynamic value to receive over here. Let's say heading. Okay, I want some value to receive. So for this, first of all, I'll remove these braces here as we are working with the advance of the JavaScript. We don't need the single quotes, we don't need double quotes, or we don't use more. We have reduced using expressions as well. Here we are not working with expressions as well that we used to do in order. Okay. Now to work with, I want to pass some value, okay, through attribute to this thing. We used to do the same thing in Aura components. We have tried this in design resource, right? So now let's work with the exporting. First of all, whenever it comes to sending or receiving values, working with the values, you have to use a decorator called as track. Okay, track decorator basically helps you to work with the values the same way the attribute used to do. You want to send the values, receive the values. It's basically like creating your variables over here which can share the values with HTML file. Okay, if I talk in very layman terms. So here you have to create the same at the rate track, okay, and create one variable like that. Okay, I'm talking in layman terms. Let's say we are creating one variable and it's having the track property. It means we can just transfer the values here and there. Okay, and after that I want to assign it some value. Let's say registration, or let's give it entrance form so that at least we see the difference. So entrance form. Okay, so now we save it. We save the HTML file. So what is this JavaScript for now? It is creating one variable which got a default value. This default value is changeable. We can just override this value the same way we did the aura for the aura attribute. Okay. Now in the HTML file, this will be getting the value over here due to track. Okay. If we don't use track, we won't be able to pass the value to this heading part here. Okay. Now let's just push the code again and see whether it works or we get any error. Okay, now it's giving us heading according to the attribute, the value from passed from the JavaScript. Okay, so this way we work with this thing. Okay, now in this thing we do have options. Okay, like whether we want to work with static values, public values, private values, so many other things that we need to learn about this as well, like how we pass the values. Okay, in that we have options. We don't have just one option that okay, use track and that's it. There can be some limitations of this thing. Okay, now the next thing, basically these are called like private properties or public properties. For that we use another decorator that we will see later on. Okay, now I guess this was all for the introduction of Lightning Web Component and how to create Lightning Web Component. Okay, we haven't used any of the functionality for now. Okay, so what we will be doing in the next session tomorrow, we will be working on writing and passing the values from the HTML and JavaScript. We can create any calculator, anything that can work on numerical values, passing values from the front end to the back end. Okay, also tomorrow we will be working on iterations and uh, conditional rendering. Okay, so these are some of the topics that I'm telling you in advance for tomorrow, and we will try to work on the life cycle hookups as well tomorrow only. Okay, for tomorrow guys, can we have a session at 8 p.m. IST?
Okay.
Yeah.
For me,
Sure.
it's fine.
For me as well, fine, Kumar.
All right, Rajesh. All right. So, guys, I will be sharing the recording to you through the drive. Okay, download it. And I don't have the email ID of Uttam. So, Uttam, can you share your email ID to me? Oh, here we have a question from Divya Garg in the chat box. Sorry, guys, actually I didn't check the chat box. So, how is Shadow DOM is different from DOM? So, basically, guys, the main difference between DOM and the Shadow DOM is about how we create it and how it behaves. Like the DOM structure can be created normally. The nodes in the DOM can be placed inside each other elements. Okay, but if it is about Shadow DOM, we create scoped trees within it, okay, in which we can connect the elements, but we keep it separate from child. Okay, so it's all about how we create it and how it behaves. I will tell you more about it later on. Okay, I got the email ID. Okay, so thank you so much, guys. We'll meet tomorrow. Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah. Thank you.